Hello people of the internet, and welcome to the What If Sega Was a Failure series. We're at part 2 now. And Sega being a failure had some it had no consequences at all. Until now, that is. Because, while yeah, the Famicom might have dominated the 3rd generation anyway, well it did, but who's gonna dominate the 4th generation now? The only reason the 4th generation happened in the real events was because Sega used their advertising campaigns, which were brilliantly masterminded, to knock Nintendo down a peg, thus giving reason people to switch from Nintendo to Sega, and having Nintendo make a new console to compete. And this brought on a lot of events. But is there any console in our altered events that can possibly fill the role of Sega? Well, let's take a look at the PC Engine. Now, the PC Engine actually did quite well in Japan, even outselling the Famicom. So maybe there's a challenge there. But in Europe and North America, it's a whole different story. For a start, the TurboGrafx-16 was never released in Europe. And then, moving on to North America, despite it being advertised, in so few places across the United States, the advertising campaigns were actually pretty weak. They talked about having more colors than Nintendo. I mean, is that what's going to get people to buy your console? And then Sega came along, and Sega did it right. Sega showed people exactly how much better the Genesis was than the Super Nintendo when they came to North America. And they did this using buzzwords and slogans, rather than just simply displaying facts. That's what advertising is, it gets you to buy a console. NEC didn't understand this when they came to the United States and America. But Sega did, and that's why the TurboGrafx-16 isn't going to work. Now that isn't to say it won't be a good system, and with less competition in the way, sure it may even do moderately well, but it's not going to be enough to knock down Nintendo. It will be kind of like what the Sega Master System was to Nintendo in the real offense. There are going to be games like Bonk's Adventure, Ninja Spirit, and Splatterhouse that might get some people to buy it, but hey, people are happy enough with Super Mario Bros. And the NES. What's going to get them to switch over to this console if it looks pretty much the same as the NES games? So, what about the TurboGrafx CD? Well, that's just going to turn out pretty much the same way it did in the real events. $400 for a new CD add-on for your TurboGrafx and not a lot of games to get for it? Yeah, I think most people would pass. And now what's happening in the real events? I mean, it's not like there's anything happening at the altered events right now. So Nintendo, they have the NES. But in the real events, they had the Super Nintendo. And they were entering into an agreement with an electronics company called Sony. And Sony were going to make a CD add-on for the Super Nintendo. But this never came through because of, well, reasons I'll get onto in another What If. But, long story short, you know what happened. PlayStation came out of this. But does this event even need to happen now? Because Sega were never around, there was no one to push Nintendo. No one gave Nintendo any competition. No one can now barge into the industry because Nintendo have those same rigid third-party policies that they always had, and there's no competitor that third-party developers can back in order to get an advantage against Nintendo in the video game industry, thus forcing Nintendo to make a new console. So who can fill that void? Who can force Nintendo to make a great console like they did in the real events? Will Nintendo end up failing? Will Nintendo end up dominating video gaming for the rest of the time? Is there hope for anyone else in the video game industry? What about all those failed consoles in the real events? Do any of them stand a chance in an environment where it wasn't just a back and forth between Nintendo and Sega? I've been the man with the plan. Thank you for watching my video, and stick around next time to find out the answers to these questions.